Hey guys, welcome back to another Why No One Plays episode. Sorry in advance for making so many of these back to back. I tried to space them out to prevent viewer fatigue and to maintain variety on the channel, but with Tears of the Kingdom having been released earlier this month, I thought it would be appropriate to draw a parallel to the game's protagonist by making a video on him in Smash. As one of the elder statesmen of the franchise, Link has been a mainstay in Smash from the very first installment to now. While many of his peers have had widely drastic transitions throughout their career, he's been relatively consistent from one version to another, and not really in a good way. After sporting the Twilight Princess model for the past two games, he's donned a new outfit straight from Breath of the Wild for Smash Ultimate, and with it, a few new attacks that would fundamentally alter his moveset. How much? We weren't sure at the start, but now that Ultimate is well into year 5 of its release, Link's placement in the meta has been characterized by a somewhat lackluster career. For today's episode of Why No One Plays, we'll be discussing Link. In conjunction with his new look, Link has received arguably the most noticeable changes of any veteran in Smash Ultimate, incorporating many elements from Breath of the Wild into his moveset, chief among them being his new remote bomb, sword beam, and his new ability to fire 2 arrows at once if he uses neutral B while holding an arrow he picks up. The overhaul in his moveset, particularly in the specials department and animations to his normals, was perceived overall as a net positive for him. Back in Melee, Brawl, and Smash 4, where he was more of a zoner and trapper, present-day Link is viewed more as a jack of all trades, boasting an impressive array of close quarters tools, projectiles, and strong hits, while bouncing nicely between offensive and defensive pressure. Though he does carry the Master Sword, not many consider Link to be a sword fighter in a traditional sense, for the simple reason that he doesn't really play the same way a sword fighter would. Curiously, unlike most Zelda games where he's seen as being quite nimble, Link's physics have perennially been his weakest asset in my opinion, with poor ground and air mobility not unlike Hero, another conventional projectile-focused sword fighter. Even so, the idea was to compensate by having his aforementioned arsenal of projectiles. Now, unlike zoners whose projectiles are the threat in and of themselves, Link's boomerang, bomb, and arrows individually are not the focal point, instead functioning as setup tools for his actual attacks, giving him a smooth transition from mid to long range combat into short range close quarters. With his new boomerang, or should I say old, it was made to deal more damage, subsequently increasing the amount of hits done it dealt, while also regaining its damaging hitbox when returning, making it much easier for him to combo into attacks like running up smash, neutral air, forward air, etc. Meanwhile, the new remote bomb possesses quite possibly the highest number of potential setups out of any instantiable projectile in the game, more than Rock's gyro and even Diddy's banana. Not to mention the sheer amount of traps you can make with this thing courtesy of its massive explosion radius, as well as the risky yet rewarding recovery potential it offers. The gist of Link's gameplay consists of switching between projectiles to close quarters, using one to lead into the other and then back to the first, making Link a very bread and butter character despite not looking like it at first. Not saying you can't pull off crazy combos or techs with him, but a strong foundation of combos, kill setups, and game plans is conducive to a popular character. Part of what makes Wolf a widely used fighter is that he has very clear-cut combos that you can use at varying percents. Up throw into upper forward air based on DI, down throw into dash attack, landing forward air into basically anything, Roy with his nair strings, falling up airs, jab into back air, so on and so forth. Link's rudimentary conversions like side B into forward air present a list of options that you can resort to during neutral, and with how strong his conversions can be, closing stocks is a trivial matter for him, at least on paper. He has no shortage of them, but like Wolf and Roy, he also has moves that are singularly really powerful, thus allowing for the privilege to go for stray hits if needed. The best way he can do this is obviously via neutral air, one of the best nairs in the game in an already notoriously stacked category. There is a very good reason Link players abuse the crap out of this attack. It comes at frame 7, has an outrageously large hitbox that retains most of its size even during its late hits, has only 7 frames of end lag, and is -3 on shield at worst. When landing the strong hit, it can also be a decent kill option off stage. Another uncharacteristically fast attack that makes him dangerous to approach is back air, a double back kick with a frame 6 startup and equally large and safe hitboxes as nair. While these are really his only 2 attacks that are considered fast, they cover most of his bases competently. Last thing I want to mention is his defensive game. Zoners and trappers in Ultimate are known to have at least 1 or 2 deceptively fast close quarters attacks that can be used as a shield. Samus up B, Simon and Richter's up B, Snake's down air, what have you. Link on the other hand has 4. Up smash is frame 10, fast enough to punish most grounded attacks on shield and even a few aerials. Nair is frame 10 at a shield as well, and you can reliably hit enemies that cross up shield behind him. But when in doubt, you can also use back air instead, making him one of the few characters who actually prefers to be struck from behind as he has a fast response out of it. But if you want a more high-risk, high-reward punish, his new grounded spin attack has been considerably buffed, now being one of the strongest out-of-shield options in the game in terms of raw kill power, ending stocks much earlier than the likes of Dolphin Slash, Uppercut, and Limit Climaxer, although I believe Dr. Mario and Ike's up Bs are still stronger. The downside is, of course, if your opponent successfully blocks grounded spin attack, you're guaranteed to get hit by basically any smash attack in the game. So it isn't something Link players should do unless they're absolutely certain they'll land it. Alternatively, they can just grab. With a frame 6 startup, decent range, and passable combo potential, Link's grab game isn't half bad, maybe not as much utility as when he still had his chain, but serviceable nonetheless. All in all, Link's new moveset has been repurposed from a hard-hitting zoner to a more stage-controlled generalist character who doesn't exactly excel in any field but doesn't fall short in anything either. In tandem with the range of buffs he received and the vast amounts of options he has access to thanks to his new attacks, the consensus is that Smash Ultimate is the strongest we've ever seen Link in the 5 titles he's been around for. Throughout the better part of 2019, 2020, and early 2021, he would tenuously hover between upper mid-tier and lower high-tier, enough to garner a fair bit of respect from the general public. Most top and high-level players gave him the benefit of doubt when it came to conceptual strength, just like they did Pikachu. He was someone who needed time to develop and fully explore all the different setups and combos one could pull off with him before coming to a more conclusive assessment. But as an educated guess, everyone more or less agreed he was low-high tier at worst, definitely good enough to be a worthwhile main. The only question is, who was going to take it upon themselves to find out just how good he really is? Not that many apparently. Currently, Link has accrued a lower score rating than even the likes of Wii Fit Trainer, Ike, Hero, Inkling, and Rosalina in recent times. So what can we draw from this? Jack of all trades characters are a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to popularity. On one hand, you have Mario, Ness, Palutena, and Wolf who are fantastic, while you have Pit and Dark Pit who rarely get picked up by anyone. Link unfortunately falls into the latter group. Why is that? First, let's establish this. The benefit of being a jack of all trades is that you can cover a lot of bases. Seldom will you ever be in a situation where you can't do something, and seldom will you ever not have a win condition that you can't consistently work towards. The drawback of being a jack of all trades, however, is that naturally you'll be in competition with others of your category. Just like how swordies, for example, are competing against each other for representation. To stand out, you need to occupy your own niche. Marcina, Ike, and Sora would be suitable for anyone who wants to play a very spacing control playstyle. Croy and Aegis would be suitable for anyone who wants to scrap. Sephiroth, Byleth, and Shulk if you want to go distance demon, and Cloud if you're unsure which one you want. The thing is, as a generalist, everyone is essentially occupying every niche, hence the term jack of all trades. To be clear, Palutena doesn't play exactly like Pit, but you get the idea. The class is inherently meant to be as all-reaching as possible, which makes it very easy for even slightly inferior ones to get overshadowed. It's that very aspect that negatively influences people's perception of Link. In hardcore gaming, players are only willing to put in unpractical amounts of effort into a character if there's a concrete reward, and even then that's a hard maybe. We have characters like Joker and Pikachu who by all accounts should have way more players at high and top level fielding them, but since in Smash, results are never concrete, players will opt for whatever is the most efficient, even if character X can achieve greater results than character Y. Hypothetically, if X character peaks out at 100 but only 50% of the time, while Y character peaks out at 80% of the time, Y character is a more practical choice. How this affects Link is that he's more of the X character. In theory, he has a lot of insane tools and setups that can blindside even top players. It's getting them off consistently where he struggles, due to lacking enough conventional strengths that are conducive to those goals. Calling back to the popular generalist characters versus the non-popular ones, there's one thing you should notice right away that separates Mario, Palutena, and Wolf from Pit and Link: mobility. Mobility plays a huge role in a character's range of access to options. Pit's ground speed is excellent, but as a multi-jumper, he suffers greatly in lateral movement, although this can be alleviated via B-reverse orbiters. Link's mobility is a far cry from Mario, Wolf, and Palutena, especially in the air. While this doesn't hinder his defensive game too much thanks to his fast out-of-shield options, it limits his offensive game, being unable to approach quickly against a more defensive opponent. His poor air mobility partially diminishes the usability of his aerials as well. Neutral and back air would be spectacular approach options on a faster character as they're unpunishable on shield and can lead into many different setups. Fox, Wolf, and Sheik always approach for landing Nair because they have the speed to do so, while Joker and Falcon players make use of Fair 1 or Nair 1 to lead into devastating kill setups, just like how Link can do with Bear 1 into Spin Attack for instance. However, because he lacks the speed to quickly approach with these attacks, despite having very fast falling speed, he'll only realistically pull this off if his opponent is also approaching him, and a savvy player knows better than to do that predictably. One could argue that's where his projectiles come into play, to force his opponent to approach him so he can bait them into close quarters or projectile setups. Technically yes, but practically no. In contrast to Young Link and Toon Link, who can very quickly follow up on their boomerangs, bombs, and/or arrows, Link doesn't really have the same luxury. Hero's Bow is a standard arrow shot with almost no follow-up potential. Remote Bomb has to be recast to detonate or struck by a fire-based attack, which Link doesn't have. Additionally, the more substantial kill power of Remote Bomb's explosion makes it unsuitable for combo setups outside of very specific mid-percent windows where he can do throw Fair 1 chains or Z-drop bomb explosion into down air. That leaves mostly his boomerang to combo off of, but only at close to mid-range. From a far distance, say center stage to ledge, Link's projectile game isn't threatening enough to pressure enemies into getting close to him since all 3 of them are extremely telegraphed, and even if you do get hit by Boomerang, he has to be reasonably close to you already, at which point the need for forcing approaches is no longer there. Case in point, the projectiles themselves are either easy to see coming or inconsequential to get hit by, and Link doesn't have the speed to make his projectiles a threat. Young Link's fire arrows are a threat because the kid can throw them while drifting forward in the air, similarly to how Mario and Pikachu can run with their Fireball and Thunder Jolt respectively to force 50-50 scenarios. That's one thing that I would say is a nerf about Link's new remote control bomb. It's not as good of a setup tool as a standard bomb like Young Link and Toon Link's. That's not to say there's no setup whatsoever. In fact, there's a ton of item drop setups and combos you can do with it, but it doesn't have the same 1-2 confirms that he used to have with his old bomb. That's really the primary issue with Link. He just doesn't have the speed to maximize the potential of his otherwise deadly offensive tools. Against opponents with speed or range, they can essentially play keep away the entire time, ironically leading to situations where Link gets zoned out. Characters like Samus and Min Min can make a brick wall of zoning tools that are individually way more threatening than what Link has. Even if he clanks with Samus projectile for projectile, there's no pressure for her to approach. Charge Shot starts threatening your stock at around 120. A fully charged arrow from Link doesn't kill until I think like 180, and even then he has to sit still and charge it, whereas Samus can load up a max power neutral B and sit on it for however long she pleases. Eventually, Link will have to approach if he wants to use any of his kill setups. To his credit, a well-positioned forward air, forward tilt, or spin attack near the ledge will end your soul at even double-digit %, but he really struggles to get those consistently against faster characters, even if his attacks beat out theirs. Fortunately for him, once he does get close, he practically shits on everyone who isn't a speedy rushdown fighter like Fox or Sheik because his Nair is broken beyond belief. But Nair can only do so much. It doesn't carry him through every situation. Oftentimes though, it feels like that's the only thing he can do. He kind of runs into the same problems that Byleth does, where his stronger attacks are too slow, but not adequately compensated in range like Sephiroth, meaning he can't just carelessly throw them out. Almost all of his hard-hitting attacks like forward tilt, forward air, and whatnot are extremely sluggish. You can use them only either as a conversion or during advantage, such as ledge trapping. That's often why Byleth and Link mains spam the crap out of Nair, because that's really their only safe tool. But even that can be unsafe to do when you account for their bad physics. In totality, Link is a great character. He still has that latent potential that everyone's assumed about him since day one, but his subpar mobility makes it really difficult to unlock that potential consistently. He's never in a position where he can control the pace of the match. In fact, he's usually the one who has to follow his opponent's pace. And though he has a plethora of really threatening kill confirms and combo setups, their threat diminishes considerably when against an opponent who forces him to take initiative first, which he can't afford to do, thus having to default to spamming Nair in neutral to gradually cover space before trapping them in an ideal scenario. Comparatively, playing Mario, Wolf, or Palutena gives the player a bit more agency in deciding when to be aggressive or defensive. So in essence, while Link has the same tools as more popular generalists, he doesn't necessarily have the freedom to choose when he wants to use them. Either he has to painstakingly create a situation where he can, or hope that his opponent foolishly runs into his attacks, neither of which will happen reliably in high or top level play, hence why we almost never see him at like top 64 or even top 128 in national or international tournaments. I know I sound like a broken record with the whole no one plays this character because they're slow, but speed and mobility really are the cornerstones of Smash. If you have bad physics, you better have incredible range pressure like Samus or Snake. Otherwise, the only ones who will play a character are those with a personal affinity for them. Although Legend of Zelda is a very popular franchise, not many people actually play Zelda or Link in tournament play. That's gonna be it for today though. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, it'd be awesome if you could leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars, join my Discord server, and check out my other Why No One Plays episodes if you haven't yet. But as always, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon in the next one. Take care.